Chodesh Tov.
Hi, Abe. Chodesh Tov. We're on Samech Tes, 69. So we brought Shitas of Rav and Rav Yochanan explaining the Mishnah's statement of Zeh Klal. So Ula Tameth. So you wanted to say that the Mishnah fits Rav Yochanan. Shalai Apsula B'Kodesh Lasuyamai. What is the additional statement at the end of the Mishnah, Zeh Klal, that if the invalidation does not occur b'Kodesh, what is that coming to include? The first part, where we say the disqualification was in the Kodesh, that was when you, instead of doing Malika on the bird, you did Shchita. But since it was done inside the Azara, it's considered Psula b'Kodesh, and therefore it will not cause Tumas Nevela. And Seifa, when it says Kol to include things that are not invalidated b'Kodesh, La'asum likas chulim b'chutz. That comes to include taking a regular bird, a non-Hegdish bird, and doing Malika outside of the Azora. Well, that certainly is killing the bird without Shechita. Anytime you kill an animal outside of the Azora without Shechita, you create Nevela. And Tanya Kavos at Rabbi Yochanan, there's a brisa to support this. It says Malka Zar. If Malika in the base of Migdash was done by a non-Kohen, Malka Pasul, or Malka Pasul, or the Malika was done by somebody who's a Kohen who like has a Balmum, who can't do the Avoda. Or let's say this bird later became Pigul because the Kohen had in mind, Chutz Lizmano, or the bird was left over beyond its time, Noiser Vatome, became Tome. But the Malika of the Czar is not an.
You just started the Daf?
Just started. So in those cases, also ein metamin abeis abliya. It does not. The Malika of the Czar cures the Tumas Nevela, which is exactly where Rav Yochanan learned, not like Rav. Rav said the Czar, it would remain Tumah. So the Brisa supports Rav Yochanan. We're on Samech Tes. I don't know, maybe 5 lines from the top.
Oh, thank you.
Rav Yitzchak Shamati Shtayim. He heard 2 halachas. Achas kmitza zar, v'achas mlika zar. He heard a halacha regarding a non-Kohen doing the kmitza of a mincha, and he heard a halacha about a non-Kohen doing malik of a bird. And these things were then placed up on the mizbeach anyways, by mistake, because you weren't supposed to do the l'chatchila. Achas tered v'achas lo tered. One of these you still have to take down. The other you can remain. V'lo yadana, and he didn't know which one was which. Amar Chizkiah mistabra, it's more logical to say that kmitza tered and malika lo tered. That when the Tsar does the kmitza of a mincha and they put it on the mizbeach, they have to take it down. But if the Tsar did malika of a bird and they put it up, they don't have to take it down. Why? Ma'ishna malika, the yeshna babama. We've already discussed that a non-Kohen would do all the various avodot at a bama, in your backyard mizbeach. L'chura, right now the Gemara is holding that they offered birds at a bama too. So since a Tsar has shaykhs to malika, so maybe that's why it's lo tered, but that can't be, because kmitza nami yeshna babama. You can do a mincha and kmitza at a bama too. So what's the distinction between whether a Tsar did the malika or a Tsar did a kmitza? Maybe you'll tell me v'chitema ein mincha babama. Maybe you'll tell me Chizkiah holds that there's no mincha at a bama, but here's a new rule. The mincha and an oif and a bird korban goes together. If you tell me there's no menachos by bama, then ein oifos nami b'bama. Dam Rav Sheshes, l'divrei ha'ami yesh mincha b'bama, yesh oifos b'bama. According to the Mandora that says you could do a mincha at a bama, you can do birds at a bama. L'divrei ha'ami ein mincha, ein oifos. The person who says that there's no mincha, there's no birds. Why? My time. The pasuk that talks about offering korbanos at a bama, like when they vayizbechu Zevachim by Nadav Avihu and the other Na'arim prior to Matan Torah, it says they offered korbanos. Well, there was no mishkan. That was a private bama. There it says Zvachim. Now, the word Zevach means shchita of an animal. So it implies Zvachim v'lo menachos and Zvachim v'lo oifos. Zvachim refers to animal, not birds. Oh, but there is a difference, says the Gemara, between a mincha and a zar. A mincha and malika. Because elaim ein kiddush b'kli sharetz b'mincha b'bama. In the base of Migdash, prior to Kmitza, the mincha was placed in a kli sharetz and sanctified. Then you did the Kmitza of the flour, and the flour, that Kmitza was put into another kli. That kli was the flour that you had done the Kmitza is thrown on the Mizbech, and you could eat the mincha that remains in the original kli sharetz. But there was no kli sharetz. You could offer a mincha at a bama, and therefore you could also offer oifos. But there was no kli sharetz. So since there's no kli sharetz, you can't learn anything from the bama about a mincha back to the base of Mikdash. So the malika you can learn back, not the mincha. Period. Then the Mishnah said molak b'smol or b'layla. The Kohen did the malika with his left hand or at night. We say that it does not convey, it's an invalid korban, but there's no tumas nevela. Ton rabban. Yachote malika shilifnim mitam b'gorim basically. I might think that if you did a malika, but the malika was not done properly, I might think that there would be tumas nevela. Talmud lomer nevela. It says, "Chol nefesh asher tochal nevela utreifa ba'izrachu vager v'chibes b'kadav rachatz b'mayim v'tamei ha'ar v'taher." So this tells us that if you killed a bird through malika, even though malika was not a good malika, like through the left hand, there's no tumas nevela. Gemara, what do you mean? Hanami nevela? Maybe it isn't nevela. Ela Talmud loymar treifa. We learn it from the extra word. It says, and the Gemara is going to show us how it teaches us. Ma treifa she'ein materes iser. An animal becoming nevela has to be similar to an animal becoming a treifa. So a treifa, if it's missing one of the limbs, there's Yud Ches Treifus that we're going to learn in Chulin. Now, there's nothing that the Treifa matirs us to do. Av kol she'ein matir sa'iser. So if you kill a bird, which doesn't, and that killing doesn't permit what normally is forbidden to us, or doesn't permit anything, it'll also create nevela. Yotza malika shehi lifnim. But a malika that's done inside the azora, hoil vihi materes sa'iser. So for example, you're not allowed to put a live bird on top of the mizbeach. Once you kill the bird, you can put it on the mizbeach. But if you put it, it's lo seirei. So there's, in a sense, a heter of an isser. So because of that, ein metam b'godim v'esabliya. Similarly, hevi amoyle kochim bachutz. You have an animal that had been designated an ola or a chatas, and you did the malika of that hegdish animal outside of the Azara. Or moilik chulin, you took an unconsecrated bird and you did malika bein mivdim bein machutz. There, hoil ve'ein matirnas isser. There's no isser that's permitted. In those three cases, metamim begodim habeis abliya. It does convey tumah. Tanidich. Yachol te'shchitas chulin lifnim. If you have a chicken, unconsecrated bird, and you shecht it inside the base of Mikdash, or you shecht kochim bein b'bifnim bein b'chutz, I would think metame habeis abliya would convey tumah. Talmud Lomer nevela. No, from that pasuk nevela it excludes it. Hanami nevela. What do you mean? It isn't nevela. Why not? Ela Talmud Lomer treifa. We learn it from treifa. And again, what's the limit? Ma treifa shavya bifnim v'chutz. A treifa is something that is treated the same, whether it's in the azar, whether it's out the azar. A treifa is forbidden to eat, even if you slaughter it. Av kol shavus bifnim mibachutz. So, if the method of killing a bird has legal effect inside and outside, the same, yatzer shchitas chulin bifnim. So we exclude, if you shecht a non-hegdish bird inside, or kochim bein bifnim bein machutz, hoil v'loy shavu bifnim kivachutz. The activity is not the same as the Gemara will explain outside. These three types of birds will not convey tumah. Let's see how. Chulin is not the same inside and outside. Why not? Bikan Bikani Asura, says Rashi. But regarding shchita of hegdish birds, they are also invalid inside and outside. Amar Rava. So it's not completely invalid if you shecht hegdish birds outside. What happens if you shecht the bird outside? You're shechting chutz lazor, you get kores. So there's a halachic thing that gets triggered. So lo soy lo tar. So it is that act then purifies it from tumas nevei. Ashkachan chutz b'fnim. Ashkachan chutz pnimin olam. So that tells us why if you shech the bird outside the azor, there's no tumas nevei. What about shechting a bird? Now you're supposed to take a hegdish bird and do malika. Now you're shechting it. So you can also say, we can also say, oh, they're not the same inside as outside, so maybe there should be tumas nevela. So it would be the same thing if you did malika for a hegdish bird outside, would not be the same shavu b'fnim kivachutz. On Rav Simi Barashi, done in davar shelo bechsher mi davar shelo bechsher. We have to learn one action that's not valid to another action that's not valid. The ain done in davar shelo bechsher mi davar shelo bechsher. But we don't learn something that is possible from something that is not possible. For example, we do it all the time. Batanya, minayin liyotze. If you took a limb outside of the azara, so there's a psul of yotze, and you threw it on the mizbech anyways. Shem lo yered. Share yotze kosher b'bama. The whole korbanos are done in a bama outside, so that's why. So you are deriving invalid forms, which is Yotze. So the Gemara says you don't. The Tana doesn't learn it from Bama. Tana Zois Toiris Ha'oila Riva Samachlei. He learns it from a pasuk, and not from this teaching from Bama. So you can't learn something that's puzzle to something that is not puzzle. Mishnah. Normally an animal, let's say it's missing a limb, it's a treifa, and you shecht it, shchita of a treifa removes any tumas nevel. So molak v'nimsas treifa. Similarly, if you take a bird, a hegdish bird, in the base of Midrash, and you examine it after you did the malika, and you find that it was a treifa. The malika purified it from tumas nevela. He argues. Rabbi Yehuda will also say shchita can't do it either. Now, Reb Meir explains his logic in the following way. Reb Meir kal v'chomer. Im nivlas behema shemetame b'magul v'masa. A cow that is killed by bow and arrow becomes a nevela. If you touch it or carry it, you have tumah. But if you shecht it and it had a treifa, it was a treifa, shchitasam at the hairs, treifasam at tumasa, it would not have tumas nevela. Nivlas ha'of, she'ena metabe b'magul masa. The nevela of a bird, which does not convey tumah through touch, you have to swallow it. Certainly, the shchita of a bird who is treif should also remove its tumah. So he proved it. Similarly, if you shecht a bird, it allows you to eat it, and there's no tumah if it was treifa, as we just learned from this kavachomer. Af mlikoso, the malika of a hegdish bird, which inside the azor you're allowed to eat it, shimachsharto bachila. So certainly tatar treifosa midei tumoso. It should also be mitar tumas treifa, tumas nevela. So we have two extreme views. Rabbi Yehuda permits shchita and malika of a bird that's a treifa and it's not tumas nevela. Rabbi Yehuda says neither malika nor shchita can purify tumas nevela if the bird was treifa. There's a middle road. Rabbi Yossi Yomer Daya Kinivlas Behema. The carcass of a bird will be similar to the carcass of an animal because shchitasu metartub. So he agrees about shchita, that shchita will purify a treifa bird from its tumas nevela, v'lo malikasa, but not malika. So he is halfway between Rav Meir and Rabbi Yehuda. Now, Rav Meir lo dorish dayo. We have a principle called dayo lavav nadin lios kinidin. You can't have a more stringent application of the law if you learn something from a kal v'chomer from the thing you learned from. And l'chora, it seems like Rav Meir is violating this. V'hadayu daraisa. How can he violate it? Dayo is daraisa, the Tanya. Midin kal v'chomer ketzad. In the story of Moshe, Miriam, and Aaron, when Miriam spoke lashon hara, and she got saras. Vayomer Hashem el Moshe v'avia yarok yarak b'fanea. If her father had spit in her face, she would be humiliated for 7 days. Kal v'chomer l'shchina b'asayom. If you're going to do a kal v'chomer because she insulted the Shechina, it should be 14 days, double. Miriam was told to stay out of the camp for 7 days because you can't create a law more than where you derive it from. So how can Rav Meir reject this? So the Rav Meir accepts it. And really, the Kavachomer mentioned in the Mishnah is not his source. Rav Yossi Bravavi. Rav Meir Kra Ashkach V'Kud. He found a pasuk. Zos Toras HaBeima V'Ha'of. This is the rule for animals and birds. So they have similar halachas. In what halacha are they similar? An animal nevela conveys tumah through touch. A bird nevela only conveys tumah in the back of your throat. If you put the piece of nevela in the back of your throat, there's no tumah, but there is by a bird. So how are they similar? Because the Torah just said, Zos Torah Sabay that they're similar. How? By a behema. The mechanism of killing it that makes you allowed to eat it, that method of killing removes tumah nevela if the animal's a treifa. Af of davar shemachsher b'achila mitar treifos u'metuma. Any act of killing with a bird that allows you to eat it, that process of killing will be metame it as well. Will be metire it from its tumah. Now, there are two ways of dispatching a bird to allow you to eat it. One is shchita, one is malika. So Rameir has both sources. Okay. So the shaila is, Rabbi Yehuda says neither would be metahir a bird if the bird was a treif. Rabbi Yehuda might time him. He found his own pasuk. Kra ashkech v'kodarish. We brought the pasuk where it says nevela and treifa. On Rabbi Yehuda. Treifa lamanemra. Why did it mention treifa? If im treifa chaya, if the treifa would live beyond 12 months, then if it did die, became a nevela, it would not transmit tumah. So harei nevela amur, and we know what a nevela is. And in treifa ena chaya, if a treifa cannot live, harei b'chlal nevela, then it's already in the subject of nevela. El havi treifa sheshachta shemetama. That that there are examples where if the animal is treif and you shecht it, it remains in its tomb. That's what he learns from that pasuk. Amalei Rav Shizbi Elamiata, based on the way Rav Yehuda is learning that, there's another pasuk tichsiv v'chelev nevela v'chelev treifa. Hosum nami nema use the same svara im treifa chaya re nevela mura. Im treifa ena chay re b'klal nevela. El lahavi treifa sheshachta. This might bring a animal that was treif that you shechted where the chelbo was tahor. But the animal itself is tamei mechlal dehi metamo. How could that be? V'am Rav Marav Amri lo b'masin satana v'chia musmina behema miktus behema metama, which implies some animal carcasses will metame, and miktus behema metama. Vezo zu treifa sheshachta. The example of an animal that is metame even after you shechted, that's a treifa that you shechted. Or everyone should agree, including Rabbi Yehuda, that a treifa animal that you shecht does not convey tumah. So we have no source yet for Rabbi Yehuda because he didn't darshan the word treifa properly. Ela treifa meboile lemeute tmeya. The word treifa excludes the chelev of a non-kosher animal, that it would have that tahara from the vela. Mishiyesh b'mina treifa. The chelev of an animal where there is a category of treifa, It's only by kosher animals. A non-kosher animal is already non-kosher. There's no special legal category of treifa of a chazir. A chazir is a non-kosher animal. Non-kosher animals, there is no concept of treifa. So the word treifa is needed to teach me this. So it's not extra. So hachanami l'me'ute of tameh. There are non-kosher types of birds, an ataleif, a bat, etc. She'eino b'mino treifa. They're also so the word treifa is not free and clear to be taught the din of Rav Yehuda. So of tamil Rav Yehuda min nevela nafkele. A non-kosher bird, Rav Yehuda already learns it from the word nevela, which is a different. The time Rav Yehuda oimer. Yachote nivlas of tamim etamim garabei sabliya. I might think that the carcass of a non-kosher bird would be metame. Talmud lomer nevela utreifa lo yochal. Mishi isur mishum bal toichal nevela. Only an animal where you are now prohibited to eat it because it's nevela, but otherwise you'd be able to eat it. But a chazir who dies, so there's already an isur to eat it. It's not a kosher animal. You cannot not eat it because it's nevela. Okay, this brings us to ayin, and this discussion is still going to go on for a little bit. Okay, so tomorrow night,
At 7,
we will learn Daf at 7:00, and we will learn
Esther,
Sefer Esther at 8:00.
Good Shabbos.
Shabbos, everybody.
Walter's saying something. Walter's shaking his head.